was still up at 4 a.m. Yeah, paying for that a little bit today. Thank you all for coming. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Josh Gates. I host Destination Truth on Syfy and Ghost Hunters Live and various other events and specials for the Syfy channel throughout the year. And it's my first time here at Scarefest. And I'm having an amazing time. It's awesome here, and I just want to say, first of all, thanks to everybody for all the support and the hospitality, and you guys have been amazing. So thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. I don't really have any formal remarks prepared, but I thought I might just babble for a few minutes and then open it up for a Q&A and get some conversation going, solve some problems, let some emotions and tears flow, and take it from there. You know, yesterday at the event, I was walking around a little bit, and I kind of had one of those moments where I stepped outside my body and just sort of looked at this whole event, and it kind of occurred to me that it's sort of weird, right? Like that all of us, myself included, are here celebrating horror and the paranormal, and it's weird, right? Like I'm walking around looking at gory masks and ads for, you know, haunted attractions, and we're all really into this stuff, and that's strange. And it kind of got me thinking, you know, why do we like this stuff? Why are people interested in horror and being scared and the paranormal and all those things? And because on its face it seems illogical, right? I mean, horror by its definition is something terrible, something to be avoided. Fear is, you know, an evolutionary response to danger. We're supposed to run away from things that are scary. And yet we don't. We celebrate this stuff, and it's a lot of what we do in Destination Truth. We go looking for scary things and things that go bump in the night, and people enjoy that stuff. And you know, in terms of why we enjoy it, it's probably not one thing, but I think it has something to do with the fact that it's fun. You know, there's this byproduct to being scared, which is adrenaline, and we enjoy being scared. And I think the other part of it, though, is about the unknown. And whether it's a paranormal investigation or a horror movie, we all gravitate toward things that are mysterious, things we can't explain, and we all like a good mystery. We all like a good story. I think that's sort of hardwired in, you know, human DNA. And I don't know when that started. I'm sure in a cave somewhere. One caveman walked up behind another guy pretending to be a saber-toothed tiger, and it scared the shit out of him, and the guy was like, dude, you're a dick, and everybody else laughed, and that's where it all started. You know, I always try to talk a little bit about travel wherever I go, because it's what I'm really passionate about, and it's a big part of what we try to do in Destination Truth is to get people excited about travel. And I think there's a bit of a relationship between travel and the stuff that we're gravitating toward here. And, you know, very few of us in America travel internationally. And there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, Americans get less time off than any other industrialized nation in the world. We don't have a lot of vacation time in this country. And also America is a big, diverse place. And so when we do travel, often we travel within the States. A lot of you today have traveled from other places, and this is a vacation or trip for you. But there is, I think, something else going on as well, which is I think a lot of people are afraid to travel internationally or worried about traveling internationally. Does anyone have a guess or know how many Americans, what percentage of Americans have a passport? Have a guess? It's about 20%. So, you know, most Americans don't have a passport. A lot of us in this room probably don't have a passport and haven't traveled, and internationally. And, you know, when you go into a horror movie or when you go into a haunted attraction, you make a choice in your mind that you're going to enjoy it. You know, you know you're going to be scared. You know you're going into something unfamiliar. You know you're going to go to a place that is uncomfortable. But you know it's going to be fun. You decided you're going to have fun with it. If you didn't make that decision, you wouldn't go in there. Then you'd just be, you know, Jodie Foster at the end of Silence of the Lambs. And that wouldn't be fun. And I think sometimes when we travel to a place that's exotic and uncomfortable or where there's a language barrier, sometimes people make a different choice, which is in their minds they say, this is going to be frustrating, this is going to be difficult, I'm going to struggle with this, and they get down about it or they avoid it. And I'm here to tell you that if you approach travel in the same way that we approach all this stuff, which is with open arms and being interested by the unknown, being interested by things that are a little bit uncomfortable for us, or scary for us even, it's really, really rewarding. I'm a big believer that travel is really good for us, that it changes us, and it broadens our perspective, but also makes coming home more meaningful because it gives you perspective on the place that you're from, and it makes you enjoy being home all the more. And so I would just encourage everybody to, if you haven't planned a trip, if you're thinking about getting outside your comfort zone and going someplace, to start saving and start planning. And I roundly reject the idea that travel has to be expensive. It doesn't. There are lots and lots of ways to go to the other side of the earth on a budget. And there's a lot of things that have been written about this. There's a ton of websites. There are annual airfare sales. There are youth hostels. There are ways to get to the most remote place on earth on a budget. So if you're interested in travel or you've been thinking about it, I'm always happy to talk about it. We can talk about it in the Q&A, or if you want to come up later on at my table, I'm always happy to rap about it. And that's really what I was thinking about today. It's just that, you know, I hear from people a lot, they say, you know, I wouldn't go to that country because nobody speaks English, I wouldn't know how to get around. And that is, if you're in the right mindset, the fun of it. And it can be a really life-changing experience. So I encourage everybody to get outside your comfort zone and you know, approach it with the same love that we all have for the paranormal and for horror, and to allow yourself to be scared and to have an adventure. So that's really what I was thinking about this morning. And if you have any questions about Destination Truth, or about Ghost Hunters Live, or travel, or working for the Syfy channel, or anything really, anything you just want to get off your chest, throw a hand up and this gentleman will come by with a microphone. Someone over here, just throw a hand up. Oh, wait, I can hear you. Maybe we don't even need that microphone. Well, unfortunately, today's my last day. I won't be here tomorrow. I'm leaving early in the morning, but I'll be here for the whole rest of the day today. So until we close up shop tonight.
Okay, we got a gold card members. By the time we get here, the line, your line's like the post office.
I'm sorry about that. I will be here for the rest of the day, though. And yesterday, later in the afternoon, the line went down. So hopefully, it'll be a little shorter there. Careful, sir.
Speaking about travel, you had mentioned like a Steal My Miles thing.
Yes.
Are you still doing that?
Yes. For those of you who don't know what she's referring to, one of the things that we've wanted to do on Destination Truth for a long time is find a way to really bring fans of the show out into the field. And we have pitched the channel contest ideas and opportunities to find a new team member, all sorts of ways to do that. And it's been a difficult thing, if I'm being frank, it's been a difficult thing to accomplish for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of liability and things that go into bringing folks out on an international production. So it's something that has been frustrating for me, because I really, I make Destination Truth because I want to share the places that we're going to and the stories that we're investing in. I want to share those with the people who like the show. So I announced a thing on my website. If you go to joshuagates.com, you can read about it on there, where I'm going to host some dinners in various spots around the world. And if you can get to wherever they are, I will be there, and we will have dinner, and I will give you a personal guided tour of wherever we are. The catch is you have to make it there. And for each of these trips, I'm also going to be dipping into my frequent flyer account, which is now obscenely filled thanks to the Syfy channel, and offering one person the chance to steal my miles and come out and see a different part of the world. So it's been announced for a little while now, and we haven't been able to do it because I've just been traveling so much. But I'm hopeful that later in this year or the very beginning of next year, we'll get into it. All right, perfect. But it's, I really want to encourage folks to come out and to, have the kind of adventure we have in Destination Truth. And if we can't do it on the show, we'll just do it on our own.
Just go ahead and point which one you want.
Up to you. Dealer's choice.
Hi, I'm Trish.
Hi, Trish. I remember you.
Yeah, you do. Anyway, I was just wondering, are you still having bad luck with your vehicles when you travel?
We drive the crappiest cars just the worst. And I blame Ryder for most of it, because she books them and does it to torture me. It's actually now, like, I'm over it now. Like, I'm at a point now where it's like, I don't need another scene in the show of me swearing behind the wheel of this car. So I'm actually hoping the vehicles are going to start improving. I think me changing tires in the desert has run its course. So hopefully the cars will be improving.
Hey Josh, I love the fun of the show. I love the fun of the show almost as much as the actual adventures and investigations. And one of the fun things is when you try the different foods. You were just talking about dinner. How do you make yourself eat those disgusting, nasty things that you eat every week?
It is a challenge sometimes eating on Destination Truth. We've eaten some truly terrible things over the years. Look, in some cases, it's the foods are important to the people that are serving them, right? And in some cases, if you don't try these things, you sort of stand to offend a local culture, a local group of people. So when that happens, it gets a little bit easier because you really feel like, oh, I kind of have to do this and get through it. Other times they're just messing with you and they're like, hey, eat this, everybody here eats this, and you don't see anybody else eating this stuff. And part of it for me is curiosity. I keep thinking, oh, maybe maybe I'm missing something. Like maybe fried tarantula is gonna be great. And it never, like none of it's ever good. Like you never bite into any of this stuff and you're like, oh, why the hell can't I find this at the supermarket? It's awful, all of it. But we've had some, I think the only thing I haven't been able to get down, it's the one thing I threw up, and I threw up on the show, at least I turned my head so I wouldn't vomit in the camera, but the balut in the Philippines, which is, if you haven't tried, it's really, is anybody here from the Philippines? Anybody here had balut? You have? Was it delicious? Did you enjoy it? No, it's an overdeveloped egg, if you don't know what it is. So it's warm, and they heat it up, and when you open it, it has like feathers, bones. It's like almost ready to be a chicken, and it's crunchy, and there's pieces of chicken in there, and it smells kind of rotted. And, I mean, it's on Filipinos. It's an aphrodisiac in the Philippines. It's like when you talk to Filipinos about it, they're like, "What do you crave? It's delicious." Like they love it, and it's the one thing I couldn't get down on the show. But I just sort of. I don't know, I just don't think about it and go for it. This system needs a little work.
Just had a question. When we watch a show, sometimes it looks like you fly in, hop off the plane, investigate, got some great evidence and fly back. Surely to God, it's not like a big thing. I'm just curious, how long do you take on when you go to a location? How long do you stay on average?
It really depends. First of all, thank you to my barista for bringing this selection of coffee up here. It really depends. I think the important thing to point out is that the Destination Truth is the intersection between trying to do a real, thorough investigation, looking into a real story, and making a TV show. And so I am kind of limited by what the budget and time frame for the TV show allows. So it's not my dime at the end of the day. So we would love to spend a month in these places. And in some cases, we spent, in Vietnam, we did a Vietnam episode that opened up our season this year. That was about a 2-week trip in Vietnam. We did about 3 weeks to get to Antarctica and back and film that episode. But there have been times where we have gone to a country for 3 days to film an episode. And those are frustrating for us to make, as I'm sure they're sometimes frustrating to watch because you feel like, oh man, we went through all this stuff just to get there, and then we're hanging out for a night, and then we have to go home. The way that I look at it is that my mission on the show is really, I know we're not going to throw a net over Bigfoot every week, right? So for me, the mission is introducing the viewer to a new place, maybe a country they've never heard of or never been to, and a culture they don't know about, introducing them to a story that may or may not be true, but is a real mystery, and getting folks excited about learning about that story. So I don't think we can solve all these things in an episode, and I think it's mission accomplished for me if we can get people excited and interested, and then maybe they go off and kind of investigate it on their own, or read about it on their own. But I agree with you. It's a fair criticism, and we wish we had more time too.
Hey Josh,
Hello.
I was just wondering, where is Ryder and the team right now since you're here?
They are scattered in the wind. The thing about, and we get, this sort of touches on another question we get a lot, which is people always ask, why do the team members change on the show and kind of rotate in and out? And the reason is that, Destination Truth is really unique in that we feature the whole crew. The crew are a real working television crew. They're not actors playing those roles. And so they are busy people in the industry. When we come home from filming a season, they might go off on Amazing Race or Top Chef or onto another show. And a lot of the guys on Destination Truth are, these road warrior adventure types who really love this kind of stuff. And so as soon as they come home, they'll go turn around and work on something else. Right now, I know Ryder was in Ireland for a little bit. I think she's back in Los Angeles now. I keep trying to get her to come out to these things. I'm going to convince her to come to the next one. And I think everybody else is working on different things. And they're sort of scattered around doing different productions. And then we try to kind of corral them all back when we go out on the road. And sometimes we have to replace somebody because they're booked on something else. But yeah, they're all kind of scattered around.
What was the scariest you've been?
Who said that? Does everybody else hear that, please? Hi, I didn't see you back there.
Hey.
The scariest that I've ever been was in Romania when the roof ripped off of my airplane. I always say this is like my go-to line for this, but it's like if you're in a plane and then suddenly you are outdoors, something has gone wrong with the plane. That was a bad day. That's probably the most scared that I've been in making this show. It just seemed like there was such an abrupt pressure change in the cabin, and it was so clear that part of the plane wasn't there anymore that I think your brain instantly is just like, well, that's it. That's the last episode of Destination Truth. So yeah, that was a bit of a close call.
Hi. I was just wondering, you guys seem to be in danger a lot of times in the show. Do you just rely on your charming personality to ward off any wild animals? Machetes or tranquilizers, any sort of firearms to protect you in case it ever happens?
Yes, this is an oft-talked about thing amongst the crew as well. You can't travel. First of all, you can't travel internationally with firearms, right? You can't just like throw a bunch of guns in the plane and fly Africa. So that's tricky. And then in some, there have been a couple of places where it's just a necessity. So in East Africa, we did a few episodes in Kenya, Tanzania, and you're out in like lion country, and there are lions walking around. And so in those few episodes, we've had a local with a rifle, kind of at the ready. In the Amazon, we traveled with a couple of local guides, people who can make a house out of leaves and know every poisonous, those people who are like jungle people. And because in some of those really, like the Amazon is like, it's like Pandora from Avatar. Like everything is trying to kill you after the sun goes down. Every plant is poisonous, every bush is full of thorns, every snake will kill you. So there are some times where it's just so overwhelmingly dangerous where we'll have somebody there, but most of the time we don't. Most of the time we don't have someone there. And there are 7 or 8 different episodes where we've been in jungles that have tigers or rhinos and large panthers, things like that. And we don't have someone there with weapons on the standby. One of the things that I've come to learn in making the show is that these large predatory animals are skittish and they're shy, and people are strange to them, foreign to them. And so it's rare that they will sort of make themselves known. We're outside of their normal food chain, and so they don't really come looking for us. But you certainly could wander into a nest or den, or that's always a possibility. And we don't really have a plan of attack for that, if I'm being honest. Will there be this every episode? I'm like, Ryder, go in there. What happens if there's a bear in there? Like, we don't really have we're kind of winging it on that front. I don't know, just something will go wrong.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
My name is Nina.
Hi.
And I know that they asked you the most scared you've ever been, where it was at. What place
would you say is probably the most paranormal? You had the most paranormal activity. I know you went to Easter Island, and that one was pretty freaky.
Yeah.
But which place can you think of off the top of your head that was probably truly scary paranormal-wise?
I'm like an entrenched paranormal agnostic. I'm really on the fence about it, even after making the show for 5 years. I've had experiences I fundamentally can't explain, but I'm still kind of rationally trying to explain things that happen to me. I felt in the Great Wall of China episode that we did as though something jostled me. That's the first and only time in making the show that I felt sort of physically touched by something. And I used to listen to Grant and Jay all the time talk about that from Ghost Hunters. They have this sort of line that they say where they're like, we always tell our investigators you're going to get punched, kicked, slapped. And they have this kind of, and I always sort of listen to them and thought, man, I've never had that happen to me. And we did an episode of the Great Wall of China where we wear these goofy backpacks on Destination Truth that you can probably see. And they have camera equipment strung in the back of them and a little swing arm that films our faces. And every hour or so, those tapes need to be flipped out and adjustments have to be made in the pack. And so the camera operators will come up behind Ryder and I, or whoever's wearing them, and kind of change the tapes and sort of stand there and kind of jostle around behind you. And that's what I thought was happening. I was standing up there and I thought that Evan, our camera operator, was, kind of moving me around and just sort of jostling the backpack. And I turned around to say something to him, he was like 25 feet away. And I wasn't up against anything, I was just sort of alone in this space on the Great Wall. And it was, my blood just froze. It was like I couldn't explain it. That was the most sort of physical thing that's happened to me. But I think that the forest in Romania that we visited now a couple of times is a place that I have a hard time squaring off with. It's a place where our camera guy, Evan, the one I was just talking about, had an experience where he was basically blown off his feet by something. And this is a guy who doesn't believe in ghosts. He's a camera operator. He's like out there to do a job. He's not there to be a ghost hunter. And I think the scariest place overall we've been is probably Chernobyl. Yeah, that was a long night at Chernobyl, and I felt kind of this real dual sense the whole time I was there of being really thankful to be able to go there and see this place, and also really not enjoying being there. I mean, it's a really sad place, really tragic place, but also just a very dangerous, spot. So to walk around, kind of absorbing radiation all night is not the next great vacation destination if anyone's looking for a spot.
Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Just wondering, what was the worst vehicle you've ever driven so far?
Oh, I mean, that's like an 800-way tie. I mean, we had a vehicle in Israel that made it 1 mile from the airport. We had a vehicle in Indonesia that caught on fire. The airplane with the roof, if you count that as a vehicle. We had an awful car in Cyprus. We often drive these old Land Rover Defenders, which these are like my favorite cars. And you can't get them in the States. You can get old ones in the States, you can't get the new ones. But they're these workhorse vehicles that you find all over the developing world. Find them in Africa everywhere. And they're like amazing, and you can make them run forever, but they're always breaking down. Like they just are always dying. So we've had like a bunch of these old Defenders where like you look down and like it's like the Fred Flintstone car. Like there's no floorboards left, and you're looking at the road going by as you're driving. I can't even picture. There's a lot of crappy cars. The Tiki, that was a great car. We had one truck that had a Tiki hut in the back. I thought that was a pretty good vehicle, actually. My favorite.
Hi. I was wondering, where do you get your ideas for the shows? How do they, you have so many different things that you do. Do they come from outside the show to you, or do you research, or what?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So what we do is, when we're getting ready to film a season, we want to go to places where people are really experiencing things, right? We don't want to go investigate a legend that nobody's had a sighting of in 500 years, right? We don't want to go look for a dragon in England, right? If people aren't seeing dragons, it's going to be kind of a dry episode. Because the thing is that, look, whether you believe that the creature exists or not, if I can introduce you to someone who seems like a sane, logical person who had something really scary happen to them, that's a good hook, right? Now you're like, well, this guy saw something, right? So we want to go to places where that's happening. So we start by looking at the news. We look at news sources from around the world, and we try to find places where these things are happening. And the thing about these stories is you see them, even here in the States, like they're always like on the bottom of page 15. Like, it was a couple days ago, like Yeti sightings on the rise in Siberia was a little thing, or a lake monster sighting we kind of see in the paper. So we look for things like that are in the news. I think our secondary thing is we have what we call fixers, which are local producers around the world, and we'll call our fixers in the Middle East or in Africa, and we'll say, hey, what's going on over there? What are we not seeing in the news? What are people talking about? Have there been any stories? And I think we're also trying to go to places that are marquee locations. We always try to find a big sort of temple or historic site or World Heritage site, because those are fun episodes for us, and they're a little educational, and we can kind of tell people about these great places. And then we kind of put all that in the hopper, and we try to figure out a route that makes sense. You know, to kind of pull back the curtain, the TV curtain a little bit, one of the cheats on Destination Truth that I can reveal to you is that at the end of the episode, when the map flies us back to Los Angeles, that doesn't really happen like that. We go country to country to country to country, and then we come home. And then we do all of those analysis things at the end once we're back. It wouldn't make any sense to, keep coming back to Los Angeles every time we film an episode. So we try to find a route that makes sense, and our kind of, rule for that is the more kind of up and downs on the globe, the less sense the route makes. You don't want to go from Sweden to Antarctica. You want to keep kind of in one zone. So we try to kind of put all that together in a sensible route. And we also, I also try to sneak in a few places that I just want to go to, And there are stories that I love, and stories that I really want to investigate that, are just kind of favorites of mine. And some of those we've been able to accomplish, and some of them, we haven't. And we put all of it together, we march up to the Syfy channel, and then they, have the final say of what they like and what they don't like. And there's some stories that I pitch every year, and they just laugh in my face. I pitched Antarctica for years. I couldn't get them to sign off on that. It's an expensive trip, difficult to get there. And I just kept, and then one year they were like, yeah, that sounds like a great, like I'd never pitched it before. They're like, it's a great idea, you should go to Antarctica. So I pitched them Iraq and Afghanistan every year. They laugh in my face, they won't let me do that. I really wanted to do an episode in Iraq and do something with the military, like a haunted Saddam's palace thing, and they're like, you're out of your mind, we're not letting you do that. Titanic, I've pitched every year, doing a kind of underwater ghost hunt. That is expensive, it turns out. Tibet is something that's on our wish list still. So it's a combination of all those things. Hi.
How many countries did you visit?
I have been to 96 countries. Get close to my 100. Some of them are just like a foot in. I count a foot. If 1 foot hits the soil, I count. There's a few people on my crew. There's arguments on my crew about this because we're all kind of country counters. So I count like airport touchdowns. Some people don't. That's like a big point of argument among country counters. But I think you have to. Like if you're there, I'm adding it. If a plane touches down in Seoul, I've been to South Korea. So at 96, but depending on how you do my math, could be a little bit lower.
What investigations do you like better, paranormal or cryptids?
It's a great question. I think the paranormal episodes are a little bit easier to make, if I'm being honest, because they're very kind of experiential. Like you go into a place where people report hearing things and feeling things, and you just kind of go in there and you see if those things happen to you. The creature stories are always a little more difficult because they tend to be in more remote places, and there tends to be something there that can eat you. So it's, I really don't like making the underwater ones. I love diving, I'm a big water guy, but when people say that they saw a giant monster in their lake, even if I don't think there's a giant monster in their lake, I think they saw something. And then it's always like murky. It's never like, this year we went to Fiji. It's the first time I could see more than like 10 feet in front of my face. But, okay, maybe it's a crocodile. Maybe it's a snake. It's still in the water. And I'm down there like with one flashlight, roaming around looking for it. So I love the Yeti stuff. I love the Himalayas. I think that's one of my favorite stories. So that's probably my favorite type of investigation are those Bigfoot stories up in the Himalayas. and I put the water creatures at the bottom.
Hey Josh.
Hello.
Right here. This is kind of a two-part question. I know you answered the questions about what your scariest moment was, but I would like to know, one, what was your most awkward moment that you could think of? And two, is there some significance to the necklace that you always wear, or we see you wear typically in just about every episode?
The most awkward, that's another 800-way tie. We've had quite a few awkward moments on the show. I split my pants open in Africa. I walked around for most of the day with my pants split open, and then had to take my pants off in a market with about 1,000 people and sit there while somebody sewed it, wearing airplane boxer shorts. To the delight of like everyone in Africa. You know, you have these sort of cultural moments where, like, we went to this Namibia episode. I don't know if anyone saw where Ryder got her face painted, bright colored. Well, that's called the Himba tribe, and they're a beautiful, amazing tribe in Namibia. And we had to make it a little bit PG, but they are naked. I mean, these people do not wear clothes, and they love this idea of they wear this ochre kind of paint that they put all over their bodies, so they're kind of bright orange. And they love this idea of painting Ryder with this stuff, and they wanted her butt naked. And it was like, no, she's gonna keep her clothes on, and it was like they couldn't kind of get their heads around that. So you do get into these situations sometimes where, you know, our values and our comfort levels are a little bit at odds with other folks. I think being pantsless in Africa, though, is probably one of my more awkward moments. And the second question was about the necklace, which is here. And this, I need to make up a better story about this, is what I need to like say that I dug it out of a mine in the Andes and it has powers. I've had it since I was a kid. I don't know where I got it. I have a vague memory of getting it in England. My mom's British and used to go to England every year. And I have this weird memory of buying it in England somewhere. It's an old sundial. It used to open in the middle. It used to rotate open, but it's all rusted shut now. And I've looked for it. I've seen a couple of ones that are similar to it, but not the same. And the only time in my whole life I've ever seen another one, the exact same necklace, was on a flight in Spain. And we landed in Barcelona, I think, and we were waiting for everybody to get off the plane so we could film. And this guy comes down the aisle and he's wearing this same necklace. And I was like, oh. And he starts pointing at me and like, because he, you know, and I said, well, I've never seen another one of these. And he says, neither have I. And I said, where did you get it? And I think he had bought it like in Spain somewhere years ago. So I don't know where it comes from. I'm sure it was like, you know, kind of a not mass marketed, but I'm sure it was like a production run of them were made, and then I don't know, the company went into business. I don't know what happened, but it does have magic powers, and you should never look directly at it. I should just say that, and then, or just be really awkward about it and just be like, I don't want to talk about the necklace. That's what I'll start doing.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
When you're not doing Destination Truth, what are some of the hobbies that you enjoy?
I enjoy dancing. Love songs. I enjoy, I love to travel. So when I'm not making Destination Truth, I come home to LA and I hang out for about 2 months, and then I get really antsy and I want to go somewhere. So I just love to travel. And I love Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. That's kind of my neck of the woods. I could close up shop tomorrow and check out and go over there and never be heard from again. I would be very happy. I would just love to live in that part of the world. And then I'm sure after like 3 months, I'd be like, get me out of here. But it seems like a good idea from here. I love scuba diving. I love the movies. I'm a real geek at heart. I mean, I'm a sci-fi guy through and through. You know, I absolutely love going to movies and watching TV, because I never do any of that on the road. Like even if we have a hotel here and there that has a TV, I never turn it on. So for the 3 months or so that we're away for filming each time, I never see a movie or TV show. So I miss that a lot. And yeah, that's about it. Traveling, going to the movies, scuba diving.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
Hello. So much trouble. I have 2 questions.
Sure.
Okay. One is, what did you do with the impression of the Bigfoot?
Uh-huh.
Where is that? And then the second one is, the guy that was sitting by the fire got sucked away. I mean, did y'all ever figure out anything that happened to him?
Sure. So the footprint we found up in the Himalayas, and we brought it home and we showed it to every footprint specialist we could, and we learned really interesting things about it. We looked for DNA in it, and then it's like a big plaster footprint. So there's only so much you can do with that. So it's literally sitting on the desk at our production company in between myself and the other executive producer of the show, and we're looking at each other going, what are we going to do with this thing? Like, is it just a paperweight? It seems sort of like something should be done with this. What do we do with this thing? And so it sat there on that desk for a few months, and I went to Florida on a vacation and went to Disney's Animal Kingdom, and there's a Yeti-themed ride at Animal Kingdom called Expedition Everest. And like all these Disney rides, there's like this insanely elaborate queue they make you walk through. It's like where every corner you're like, oh, we're at the ride, and it's another 800 miles. And the one for Expedition Everest, they make you go through a Yeti museum. And this museum chronicles all of the people that have gone to look for the Yeti and everything they found. And I was like furious. I was like, I should be in, this is insane. Like, I should be in here. I have a footprint. And I called Brad, the other executive producer of the show, and I said, Brad, I know what we have to do with this footprint. We have to give it to this Yeti museum. Like, where else would you put that thing? It's a Yeti footprint. And I called, I just cold called like everybody at the Disney Corporation that I could find. All of them thought I was like a lunatic. There's just no way into that conversation. You're like, hi, I have a Yeti footprint. Like, well, thank you for calling. You're like, there's nobody. And they bounced me around from like Glendale to Orlando to Tokyo and Paris and back. And finally somebody listened to me for a minute and said, you need to call Joe Rohde. And I was like, who's Joe Rohde? And there was a silence moment. And she was like, you need to call Joe Rohde. And I said, okay. And I hung up and I Googled Joe Rohde. And it turns out that Joe Rohde is like a big deal. He has like, people always say like, oh Josh, you have this great job, you can travel the world. Joe Rohde has the best job in the world. He is like the senior theme park designer, executive Imagineer at Disney. Like, he's the guy who's just like, hi, give me $1 billion, I'm gonna build a huge theme park. He's like, got the coolest job. He gets to build these amazing theme parks. And he built all of, Animal Kingdom. It was his park. And so I called his assistant, and she was really nice, and I said, don't hang up on me. We making a TV show, we found this thing, I was down there at the attraction, we'd love to donate it to you. And she's like, okay, well, send me an article, send me a little thing about who you are, and I'll float it across Joe's desk and let you know. I hung up, and 10 minutes later, Joe Rohde calls me. And he is like one of these hyper-intelligent guys who knows everything about everything. He like talks a mile a minute, and he said, this is amazing, where did you find this footprint? And I said, oh, we found it up in the Himalayas. And he said, where? And I said, well, we found it up, toward Everest Base Camp. But he said, right, which valley was it in? Like, he knew every piece of geography in the Himalayas. And he put myself and one of our producers on a plane and flew us to Florida, and he was incredibly sweet and generous, and we donated the footprint to him, and it has this really nice spot now in the attraction. So it's got a home, and it lives there, and thousands of people walk by it every day, and it's become part of this, just another piece of kind of Yeti lore. So, I mean, I'm a Disney nut. Every year as a kid, we used to go there. I used to drag my poor parents down to Orlando every year for, a school vacation, and to have a little piece of something I've done in a Disney theme park is, like, mind-blowing to me. So, that's where that is. And the second question was, the guy, Evan, he was very scared when that happened to him, and we showed some of it and didn't show some of it. He was really shaken up and emotional afterwards, and we didn't film some of that. And then we went back this year to the forest. We did a follow-up episode, and he stupidly agreed to come back. Because he went on other projects, but he really missed Destination Truth. He said, man, if you ever want me to come back and do an episode, I'll be there in a heartbeat. I called him and I said, Evan, I have some good news and some bad news for you. I'd love to have you come back and do an episode. You're going back in the haunted forest. And he came and he was a real sport about it, and he had more really strange experiences there. And I've known Evan for a long time. This is like a rational guy, and he would never set, if I paid him $1 million, he wouldn't go back into the forest now. He really wouldn't. It was, twice was enough for him. Hi.
I forgot the microphone.
Hi, Josh. I just had a question. What is your background in, and how did you get started doing Destination Truth?
I'm from a little town in Massachusetts. Have you ever seen or read The Perfect Storm?
Yeah.
I'm from that town, Gloucester, Massachusetts. My mom's British, so I didn't get either accent. I didn't get the English accent or the Gloucester accent. If I'm drunk enough, the Gloucester accent will come out a little bit. If I get wicked hammered, it will come out. But I grew up there. I went to Tufts University just outside Boston, and I went to school for drama and archaeology in an effort to disappoint my parents financially as much as I could. And I studied those things because I thought I wanted to work in archaeology, and I went on excavations every year when I was in college. In the Middle East, I worked on excavations, and I loved it, but I learned as I did it that what I really loved was the field work. You know, it's like 90% of archaeology is the scene in Indiana Jones where he's in the classroom. And the girls are not beautiful and batting their eyes at him. You know, it's a teaching position, and it's I mean, I have all the respect in the world for it. I love that material, but after college, I didn't want to go into a master's and a doctorate program. It just felt like it wasn't. I was sort of schooled out. But I loved the history of it, and I loved the field work. And I went to Los Angeles after college, and I was kind of trying to cut my teeth doing some acting stuff, and I had a photography business that I was doing. I would travel quite a lot, and I would take pictures overseas and come back. And it took me a really long time to marry the ideas of performing and working in history or archaeology or travel. And I don't know why that took so long, but it did. And I knew a producer who had sold Syfy this idea for Destination Truth, and they filmed a pilot with another host, and they didn't like it, and they wanted to find a new host. And this producer said, well, you should meet my friend Josh. He loves to travel, and he loves history, and he loves stories. And I met with the folks at the Syfy channel, and it seemed like it was a good fit, and I just kept thinking, well, nothing's going to come of this. This is not going to go anywhere. And a plane ticket showed up for me to film the first episode, which was our Bigfoot story in Malaysia, and I thought, well, this is a fake ticket. And it just happened. So, like most stories in Hollywood or most stories in life, it just was a random sort of set of things that came together.
Hi, Josh. My name is Brian Miller. I've studied cryptozoology since I was like 10. I've always thought it was interesting. How would you advise getting started in something like that to actually get out in the field and do it like you've been doing?
You know, it's tricky. I mean, I think if you're really interested in cryptozoology, then you're probably really interested in zoology. And I think if you really, from a sort of academic perspective, want to work in the field, it's about studying zoology and biology and working along those channels. And those are incredibly rewarding channels. If you want to go explore the kind of crypto side of things, there are people like Jeff Meldrum is a great friend of the show. He's someone you might have seen on the show. He's a professor at University of Iowa, and on the side, he's kind of a Bigfoot guy, and he researches Bigfoot. He's written a great book about it. But he's also a professor and works within a university system as well. So one option is to do that, is to become a sort of mainstream biologist, zoologist, and then kind of make that a sidetrack. I think if you just are into it kind of on a casual level where you want to go and explore, it's one of those things you just have to do. You just have to. You're not going to find probably multi-million-dollar funding to go look for these things. You're going to have to be scrappy about it and just get out in the world and explore it. And I think that as much as Destination Truth is a TV show, it's actually a very modest TV show financially. And most of those expenses just come from the equipment and stuff that we're moving around. But going to some of these places and just getting out in the wilderness and exploring, not very expensive. That's something that you can save for and you can go and do. And you can plan for those things. So I think there's sort of academic ways to go about it and there's sort of hobby ways to go about it. But most of it's just going to involve getting out there on your own and doing it. Hello.
I'm Isabella. And you find Bigfoot?
Did I find Bigfoot? Not yet. I'm looking. I'm trying to find Bigfoot. I've tried to find Bigfoot a lot. And we haven't found him yet. But if we do, you will hear about it. I will make sure you know. Thank you for your question. I appreciate it.
Hi.
Hi.
What was your most fun adventure?
I really loved our trip to Egypt, the Tut's Tomb episode that we did. That to me was like a really fun time. I talk a little bit about it in the book. You know, we kicked around this idea of like, could we go spend a night in Tut's cursed tomb? And Egypt's a country where you need a fixer. You need a local to cut through a lot of red tape there. And people had recommended this guy to me named Rami. And they said, this is the guy. Other production companies who filmed in Egypt, Amazing Race folks and stuff, they said, call this guy Rami, he's the best. I said, okay, so I called this guy Rami, and he's like 24 years old, this guy. But his parents, he comes from this like family of production fixers. And he's got this kind of smooth, velvety voice, and he gets on the phone and he says, my friend, what can I do for you? And I said, well, we want to come to Egypt and we want to film the show. And he goes, okay. And I said, we would like to go to the museum in Cairo and film Tut's death mask, which you're not allowed to film. And he said, oh, $50. And I said, okay, all right. We would like to go ride horses in front of the pyramids. $100. I said, okay. And we listed a few of these things we wanted to do, and it was like, no big deal. He was like, yeah, just a little bit of money, we can make that happen. And it's, it's not like corrupt, and you permit these things, and that's what it costs. And he said, what do you really want to do? Why are you, this is all like child's play. And I said, oh, well, because I'm kind of beating around the bush because I'm afraid to say it. And I said, well, what I really want to do is spend the night in King Tut's tomb by myself. Nobody down there. And he was like, give me an hour. And he calls back in an hour and he says, I can work it out. And we flew to Egypt, and this guy he was at the gate with a suit on and a smile, and he knew everybody. He knew every customs official, everybody was his brother, everybody was his uncle's best friend. And it was like being a high roller in Cairo. I mean, he opened every door that you wanted to go through. And it was just such a thrill to be able to go to Egypt, which is already just this incredible place. But it can be a very frustrating place too. Egypt is like, it's like India. It's like there's a crush of people everywhere. And everyone's trying to kind of get your attention and trying to get you to buy something. And he just, like a knife, just cut through all that. And we ended up having this amazing experience there. And good to his word, we were galloping on horses, and I spent, the night down in Tut's tomb. I mean, just insane. And I just could never have imagined a world where I would go do something like that. It was like having an Indiana Jones adventure, and really just having access to tombs and tunnels and things you just, didn't think you'd get to do. That was probably the most fun we had. Antarctica was also a blast. It was miserable getting there in the boat, but another one of those things where I can't believe I'm here, I can't believe I'm getting to see this. Those were probably our two most fun adventures.
Hi Josh, my name's Margie. My question is, who on your team is in charge of finding the party? Because it doesn't matter if you're in the Gobi Desert with people who don't speak English, you found the party and you're drinking all night, so who's in charge of that?
It's a group effort. It's a group effort. It's a funny thing about travel. Like, you go to places in the middle of nowhere, nobody knows you, and nobody speaks the same language, and you end up almost always in a funny little bar, around a fire, or hanging out with people. It's incredible how people come together from different cultures, and there's no real good answer to that. The party sort of finds you, and that's what I always talk about with travel. Like, if you put yourself out there and you go to these places that are kind of off the beaten path, great things happen. You meet, even if you just meet other travelers. People always come back from those trips having stayed in a hotel or a hostel or a bar and met interesting people, and it just sort of finds you. It really does.
Hi.
Hi.
We love your attitude on the show, but what do you consider the most credible piece of evidence that you've ever caught?
I think that, for me, the stuff we've done in the Himalayas, both with footprint castings and DNA pieces and hair fibers, is all really compelling. And also, just the number of eyewitnesses we've met, from different parts of the Himalayas, from Nepal to Bhutan, these people who are having very similar experiences in very different, disparate cultures. All of that is really compelling to me. That's a story that I would love to be true. I don't know that it is, but I think there is some heat on it. And in the paranormal world, we've caught a lot of things that I look at and can't explain. Human-like figures on the thermal imager at Chernobyl, what happened to my cameraman in Romania. I think there have been a number of paranormal cases where I'm very much scratching my head because I feel like the evidence is really compelling.
Hey Josh.
Hi.
The Island of the Dolls, super creepy. What was your creepiest moment, and would you go back? Because it creeped the hell out of me.
We were gonna go back this year. You know, we decided to do a follow-up episode, and it was a debate between Chernobyl, the Island of the Dolls, the forest in Romania, and the suicide woods in Japan. Because those are the ones that we get the most kind of feedback on. And we were all like, F this, we're not going to Romania. I mean, Chernobyl. That was out. That went off the table first. Done. Island of the Dolls we were going to go back to, and we just had so much feedback on the Romanian forest episode that we did that instead. So I would go back there. The Island of the Dolls is not that hard to get to, actually. You know, it's in those old Aztec canals in Mexico City, and you go to Mexico City and drive down towards those canals, and there's a bunch of kids down there with boats, and jump in a boat, and you can get there pretty quick. If anyone wants directions, I'm happy to. I would go back there. It was a really creepy night. The island is not very big. I think if you went out there in person, you'd be sort of amazed that, you know, it's not a huge place. Walk around it in 10 minutes, you know. The creepiest moment was when that doll opened its eye. That wasn't a gag, like it just happened. It was one of those like picture-perfect TV moments that happened. And there is just something so awful about, even like nice dolls, you know, even like in good condition dolls, you just look at them and it's like, there's that horrible talking teen at Twilight Zone thing that's always happening with them. And these were like, you couldn't make dolls that looked this scary. Like in an effect shop, you couldn't, like spiders crawling out of their eye sockets, and there's like the scariest looking dolls you've ever seen. And to be sort of stared at by thousands of these things all night long is really unnerving. And when that eye opened on that one, that was it. How are you?
I'm a scuba diver, so what was your best previous dive? What is your
goal? Yeah. I would love to dive the Great Barrier Reef. I haven't done any diving in Australia. I mean, that's sort of one of the like holy grails for most divers is to dive on the Great Barrier Reef. I haven't done that. I think the best diving we've done on the show, we did Truck Lagoon in Micronesia, which is another kind of, for scuba divers, is usually a place they want to get to. There's a whole Japanese fleet from World War II that's at the bottom of the Pacific in a lagoon in Micronesia that the Allied forces, in an attack called Operation Hailstone, sort of retaliation from Pearl Harbor, sunk a ton of supply ships out of Micronesia. And you go down there and it's like, you know, if you're a wreck diver, I mean, I remember getting there and saying to one of the dive masters in the island, like, what do you have? And he's like, what do you want? I mean, tanks, aircraft carriers, airplanes, boats, freighters, cars, you know. I mean, I remember on that dive, I went into a Japanese vessel that's just sitting down there. And these huge ships, and warships, you know, and diving into a room that was, you know, twice the height of the ceiling and 5 times the length of this room. And being pitch black and looking around and realizing that it was just all airplanes, still tied down to the decks. And I sat in a plane and played with the throttle, you know. I mean, insane diving, really amazing. Scary stuff too. I mean, just you see bits of, you know, dishware and things just all sort of sitting down there. There's some skulls still, you know, in certain parts of the ship where there were explosions, skeletal pieces got fused into the bulkheads and stuff. I mean, it's really scary. But it's as a wreck diver, it's amazing. And I think some of the best kind of not that far away diving is cenote diving in Mexico. It's really, really fun if you haven't done that. That stuff is beautiful. It's, you know, fly down to Cancun will cost you almost nothing.
Hey Josh, I'm Matt.
Hello. Oh, hi. For some reason I can't see anybody today. I'm blind today. So.
I have 2 questions. First one, do you have an action figure?
I like where your head's at, sir. Keep talking.
The second one is season 2 of Destination Truth. Is that ever coming out? Or?
On DVD, you mean?
Yeah.
You don't mean on TV, because we are past season 2. I want to ruin it for you. The answer to the first question is there is not. I'm working with a company that wants to make one. And they sent me mock-ups of it, and it was literally just Indiana Jones. It was like a fedora and a whip. I was like, a little on the nose, maybe, like, throw a scarf on me, that's kind of odd. Get the necklace in there. So they are refining my Indiana Jones action figure. And I don't know if they will release. I asked the network, like every time I come to one of these events, I go back and I'm like, people are asking me about the DVDs. I don't know why they've only put out season 1. And they keep telling me there was a plan to release all of them. I think because they're all available on iTunes and they're all available for digital download, the sort of era of the DVD is kind of fading a little bit. And it's just not a priority for them, I think, to release it, since it does, you can buy it and download it, you know. But plenty of folks, myself included, still use DVDs, so I'll keep pressing them. I will carry the message up the hill. And folks, we're supposed to go to 1:45, but I'm happy to cut it in Chip Coffee's time, so just keep this thing on. I'll at least wait until coffee shows up here.
Josh, do you have any intentions of writing another book?
Yes, I would love to write another book. I found the experience of writing the one that I wrote very difficult. The publisher said, we would like to give you a ghostwriter to help you write it. And I thought, I don't need a ghostwriter, I've never written anything before, how hard can it be? And that was a dumb decision. I'm really pleased with how the book came out, but trying to write something long form, what I should have done was taken the ghostwriter to help me organize an outline. You know, writing something really long form, if anyone has done it, I mean, it's really hard, it's challenging. You have to really have a pretty big macro view of what you want to write. And so I'm intimidated, but now that it's done, I'm super proud of it, and I'm proud that it's all my own writing, and somebody didn't write it for me. I mean, a lot of people who are on TV write books, and they don't write a word of them, you know? And I didn't want to do that. I wanted it to be my own stories. So I'm happy that it came out as well as it did, and I would love to write another one, but it's like, you know, I'm going to procrastinate on that a little while until the traumatic memories of the last one are buried. I would love to write a fiction piece. Part of what was difficult about writing the book is that I had to sort of re-remember all of these things and go back to all these journals and talk to people that I traveled with, because a lot of it's a blur, you know, when you travel around so much. And I feel like there'd be something liberating about not being bound to the history of something. And so I'd love to try to write something in fiction. I feel like that might be, I'm saying it'll be easier, it wouldn't be easier. But I think stay tuned, I'll definitely try to do that.
Hey Josh,
how are you?
Welcome to Kentucky.
Thank you.
One episode I saw that one of the cameramen knocked over a bunch of food. Has there been somewhere where you had something really embarrassing happen like that, or you got in trouble with the locals somehow?
Yes, we tend to embarrass ourselves occasionally. We try really hard not to offend the locals everywhere we go. You sort of see us joking around with people on the show a lot, and those are in instances where we know they're kind of game to joke around. You know, sometimes when when we first walk into the chief's hut, you're not all like slipping on banana peels and stuff. You try to keep it formal. We had. I'm trying to think of really embarrassing things that happened to us. You know, in a lot of these cultures, there are these really specific, like, don't touch them with your left hand, and, you know, don't ever look so-and-so in the eye, and we typically forget, you know, it's like you're so sort of nervous, you're trying to, like, meet these people, like, some guy with an axe, the chief has an axe, and you're like, you know. So we often, I think, you know, do the wrong thing, but what's great is that they know we're going to do the wrong thing, and they're, you know, they're pretty understanding. Getting a wrap it up sign, but not until Chip Coffee's standing in that doorway. I'm kidding, I'm joking, ma'am. I'm not going to hold the room hostage. Of course you think I am. So just a couple of parting notes. I'll be back over at my table for the rest of the day today. And if you are a fan, I was teasing Chip Coffee. I think has that been a ticketed event, his thing in here? Is that sold out? If it's not sold out, you should try to get tickets for it. Chip's amazing. And if it is sold out, you should go visit him later on over his table. He's a great guy and has all sorts of interesting stuff over there. And please come by. Is anybody else here like the fan of the opera? What's happening? Oh, Thriller is breaking out somewhere in the building. But please come over to the table if you have any other questions. I'll be there for the rest of the day, and you can always catch up with what I'm up to on joshuagates.com or at syfy.com, Destination Truth. Thanks, everybody.